Hey everybody, it's Rob here at etrailer.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Curt custom fit base plate kit with removable arms on our 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK Unlimited. Now here's what our base plate's going to look like once we have it installed. I do want to mention that the electrical accessories in our breakaway kit are not included, but they are going to be needed for a flat toe setup. Now for a complete flat toe setup, there are a few components you're going to need. A base plate, your tow bar wiring, a braking system, the tow bar, and your safety cables. But our base plate is going to provide that attachment point for the tow bar to hook up to so we can safely flat tow our Jeep behind our motorhome. Because let's face it, that's the whole reason why we want to take our Jeep, is because it's a lot easier to drive a Jeep around than trying to maneuver your motorhome. Plus, once we get to the campground, if we just need to make a quick trip, we want to run up to the store or something, again, it's a lot easier to move a Jeep than it is to move your motorhome. Now, one thing I really like about our base plate is that these arms are removable. So whenever we're not towing, we can actually pull on this pull ring, rotate the arm, and the arm will come out. That'll have a cleaner look and it won't be sticking out so far. And you can see it's actually almost underneath the bumper, so unless you get down real far, it's not that noticeable. Now, obviously we don't want to get any dirt, debris, or anything else in there because it will make it difficult to get the arms in. So whenever we don't have the arms in place, we can use the caps provided with us, and you can see it even gives it an even more cleaner look, so we don't have to worry about any kind of scratches on the inside showing up or anything like that. And keep all that dirt, debris, and moisture out of the inside of the tube. And putting the arms in is extremely easy. You can see we have a couple flat spots on the end here. We want to make sure those are on the top and bottom. We're going to slide the arm in, and you'll see this pin here. We want to push that until that ring comes out. Push it in, rotate it, and it'll lock it into position. Whenever you're looking for a base plate for your Jeep, one of the big things you want to pay attention to is if it's going to be compatible with the tow bar that you want to use. Now that's one really nice thing about our Curt base plate here. It's very versatile because it's going to work with all Curt tow bars as well as Blue Ox tow bars. So we're not going to be limited to just one manufacturer with this. And like most base plate kits, we're going to have a spot for our safety cables. Now I like these because they're on the outside, they're away from the attachment point and all of our other accessories, and they're extremely easy to get to. You can see we have plenty of room to get our hooks on or take them off. Now I know a lot of you are wondering about the installation. Now it's extremely straightforward. There's no welding required. There is some minor trimming of the belly pan, but that's plastic, and again, it's on the bottom, so we're really not going to see it, but it's just going to simply bolt onto the frame. There is some minor drilling that we're going to have to do, but again, it's really not that bad, and there's no special tools that are required. In fact, let's go and bring it to the shop, and we'll go through the installation process together so you can have the confidence to do it at home. To begin our installation, we need to remove our belly pan. So if we come to the front, we're going to have several push pin fasteners that we're going to have to remove. If you get a flat blade screwdriver or a trim panel tool, you come in between the two sections there. We're going to pry out that center section, and we can get underneath the base and pull the rest of the clip out. So we're going to work our way across the front and pull all of them out. Now if we move underneath and behind the belly pan here, we're going to have a couple more push pins holding it in place. We'll have one on each side and work exactly the same way. So we want to come underneath the base, pull out the center section, and then we can pull the rest of it out. Now keep in mind, once you get the last one out, there's nothing holding this on anymore, so you want to make sure you have a hold of it before you pull that last push pin out. Then we'll set the belly pan aside where it won't get damaged. And coming back underneath, if your Jeep has fog lights, we want to disconnect these before we go too much further. So just squeeze the tab, and we can pull that connector out. Now, obviously, we're going to have another one on the other side, so we'll pull that one out as well. Now, if you look right next to our fog lights, you're going to see two bolts on the inside of the frame, and then if we move just to the outside of the frame, there's going to be two more. We need to remove all four on each side, but keep in mind, that is what's holding our bumper in place. So what I like to do is remove three of them and leave one extremely loose so that I can still reach it from the outside. I'm going to use an 18mm socket to pull those nuts out. It may help if you have a swivel on there, just because it's kind of a tight fit. Now once you pull both nuts off, you may not be able to see it all that well, but if you start moving around in there, you'll feel that there's a little plate in there. You want to make sure you pull these off. They're going to be on the back side right in front of the nut. So that stud should be coming through, and once you take the nut off, like I said, you may not see it in there because it's pretty dark and blends in, but you want to make sure you grab all 4 of these. There'll be one on the outside and one on the inside of each frame rail. So you want to make sure you remove the last nut. Now when we go to pull our bumper away, we want to do it very slowly because there are going to be some clips that are holding our fog light wiring to it, and we don't want to be pulling on them too hard. So just pull a little bit. And ours actually does not have the fog light wires attached to it, so we're going to go ahead and put our bumper aside where it won't be damaged. But if yours is attached to the bumper, you just want to unclip all the little push pins so that you can actually pull the bumper away. So now with an extra set of hands, we're going to lift our base plate up. But you'll notice we're going to have several holes on our base plate. We want to line this hole up, the lowest round hole, with the middle hole on the frame. So we'll lift it up, kind of rotate it until we can get it to line up. It's a little bit of a snug fit, but it's a good thing. It'll help us keep it in line. And once you get it pretty close, you're going to want to clamp the base plate to the frame. Now, it should be able to come down here if there's room to get your pliers in place. And if they're big enough, and we'll clamp it down and make any little adjustments to get that hole to line up. Now that the base plate's lined up with the hole, we want to take our fish wire. It's going to be the large one out of the kit. That's going to fit the large carriage bolt. There's 2 different sizes, so you want to double check these before you start fishing any hardware in. This is going to be the large carriage bolt and the large fish wire. So we want to put our fish wire through the hole, the coiled end first. We want to push it through until it comes out underneath the cross member in the center here. Now you want to make sure you leave the tail end and the coiled end out. And we're going to grab the large square hole spacer block. We'll slide it over the end of our pull wire. We'll take that large carriage bolt, thread it onto the end of the wire. And then if we come to the center section, you can see there's a good dip here. You want to push all that hardware into that channel. And then we want to pull on the pull wire until we can get that bolt and block to come through. Now, if it gets stuck like this, I recommend that you kind of wiggle the base plate a little bit, do a little bit of adjustments, because it is a really tight fit. But if we pull on this, what's going to end up happening is the pull wire is going to come out and the bolt is going to get stuck inside, and most likely the pull wire is going to get damaged. We're not going to be able to use it. So if you can, kind of just tap on the base plate up, down, shift it just enough to where you can gently pull on this and the bolt will come out. And once you do have it through, you want to pull the pull wire off. And if you can, kind of reach in from the back and push on the bolt. That'll help keep it still and prevent it from getting pushed back in the frame. We want to grab the large hex nut. We just want to get this installed just to make sure that nothing's going to be moving on us and that bolt's not going to fall through. Now we're going to move to the other side and do the exact same thing with the same combination of hardware. And once you have both sides in, you want to grab yourself a 15/16 socket, or you can use a 24 millimeter. And we're going to tighten these up, make sure they're nice and snug. Then we're going to come back with a torque wrench and we're going to torque these down and remove the clamps. Now if we come to the side of our base plate, on each side we're going to have 2 holes. And we need to drill these out. But you'll notice that they're going to go right into the frame right here. We don't want to go all the way through the frame. We just want to go through one layer so that we can get to the inside of the frame. So I'm going to start with somewhat of a small drill bit just to kind of help me get through and have less material to deal with, and then we'll come back and enlarge it to the final size. Now we want to drill this out to at least a 1/2 inch. Just keep in mind our bolts are 1/2 inch that are going to be coming through here, but most of us don't have any bits that are bigger than a 1/2 inch. So once you get all the way through, you can kind of just move the drill bit around just to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. And just to make sure that the inside hole is big enough, you can grab one of the 1/2 inch carriage bolts, go through the base plate, and make sure that it goes all the way into the frame and it's not getting bound up. We're going to repeat that for all the remaining holes, the one over here as well as the 2 on the other side. Now that all the holes are drilled out, we want to grab our pull wire, the 1/2 inch carriage bolt, and spacer block. Except this time, we're also going to want to grab the spacer, and this is going to go in between the frame and the base plate itself. It's a little bit challenging, but I'm going to stick the back piece in first. I'll take my pull wire, and I'm going to go through my base plate, go through the spacer block, into the frame, and then I'm going to want to push it towards the front. Now, if you're having a little bit of trouble getting things lined up, what I'm going to try to do is get a screwdriver in the back hole or a pick, maybe even a punch, something to hold everything nice and level, and then I can just use my finger right here to position the spacer block where I need to. That way, once I get that other bolt in place, I can pull my support piece out and then get the bolt in. Because I did get it through, but it will make it a lot easier when I go to pull the bolt through, so I don't have to fight that block here. So once you got your pull wire, you kind of want to get your finger in there and guide it towards the front bottom hole here. The reason why we're going to use the bottom is because it's just a little bit bigger than the top, and our spacer block doesn't actually fit in the top one. So slide that spacer block over the coiled end, thread on our carriage bolt, and one piece at a time, we'll push each piece into the frame, and the bolt, you are going to have to kind of turn and pivot it in there. But we'll get that in there, then we want to kind of shake our bolt until it comes out through that spacer block and through the base plate. At that point, we'll go ahead and pull the pull wire off. Now, I always like to remind people to be careful because we don't want that to fall back into the frame. So if you can, get your finger on the very inside edge, just to where you can get a couple turns on the nut, and we'll tighten it up, and then just repeat the process for the remaining holes. Now I'm going to come back with a 19mm socket and snug up the flange nuts. You can also use a 3/4 inch socket. You want to make sure you come back, and we're going to torque all of our hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. We're going to repeat that for all of our remaining hardware. At this point, we can put our bumper back in place. Just want to loosely line it up, make sure those studs are going through the back here, and if they are, I'm going to go ahead and loosely put on one nut so I don't have to worry about the bumper falling when I go underneath to put the bolts back in. Now keep in mind, putting one nut on is only going to be temporary because we do need to put those plates back in. So once we're underneath, we can remove those hand-tight nuts, put the plates back on, and then reinstall the hardware. Our next step is to install our permanent safety cables. Now, if you look at the back of the base plate, we're going to have this tab here, and they're also going to provide us with a quick link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my safety cables wrap around the frame up top here, and then come back down, and I'm going to have each end attached right here with the quick link. So I'll feed it up above the frame, have it come down. Then we'll wrap it around the base plate on the side here, and we'll just attach the quick link right there. That way it'll have a nice secure point to attach to. Just open it up. Make sure we get both safety cables through there. And bring it down to the attachment point. Make sure we have enough room. And we just want to tighten up that link until it's nice and closed. We don't have to worry about it opening up. I'm just going to take a pair of pliers, kind of crank down on there, make sure it's not going to come loose. Now we need to install the other safety cable on the other side of our base plates. Go ahead and do that now. Now once you have them attached, the main thing is you want to make sure that it's not going to be rubbing against any lines, any electrical cables, or anything else that may cause damage to either the safety cable or the other item. But what I like to do is I like to take all the slack out of the safety cable, and then I'm going to take a zip tie and I'm going to tie it together. Usually if you have them looped like this, you can kind of just grab the ends of it, bring them together, and that'll pull all the slack out of there. And it'll keep it from interfering with anything else that we have to put in place or any moving parts up here. Now the zip ties don't come in your kit, but I always suggest just having a few on hand for something exactly like this. Never know what you need them for. So I'm just going to go ahead and put one on the other side as well. At this point we want to grab our underbelly pan and we're going to line it up as close as we can to where it's going to sit and the way it's supposed to sit. And then once we have it lined up pretty well, we want to take a marker and we're going to mark right on the edge of these tabs here. Because you can see they kind of go back. We need to clear these tabs. So again, we'll just get it as close as we can. And obviously it's not going to be very easy because the base plate's going to be in the way. But we want to get it as close as we can. There's always a little bit of room for wiggle room. But we'll mark the outside and just on the inside on both sides of our belly pan. We'll pull it down and we can take some measurements and extend those lines out. So those 2 points, that little notch that we're going to end up taking out, needs to come down about 4 inches. It doesn't have to be exact, but I would like to cut as little as possible, so I'm just going to keep sneaking up on it. I'll start at 4 inches. And just extend my lines up. And again, we can always take more material off, but you can't put it back. So I always like to start out kind of small and just, again, keep creeping up on cutting a little by little until it fits in there nicely. So we're going to go ahead and transfer that same measurement of 4 inches on the other side. We'll cut that out and test fit it. Now you can use whatever you have available to cut this. It is just plastic. But for a clean cut, I'm going to use a rotary tool. And again, just kind of cut out this section and take as little as material as I think I need because we can always come back. And always come back, clean up the edges with a razor knife to get some of this frayed plastic off. And if we don't need to cut anymore, I'm just going to take some rubbing alcohol and wipe off the excess paint. And I'm just going to use a file to kind of clean up these edges because my rotary tool, actually the battery died on it. I don't have any extra blades. So I just use a pair of aviation snips. Pretty easy, but it does leave a little bit of jagged edge. So a file will take care of that real quick. Now that it's trimmed, we'll just lift it up and kind of feed it behind the base plate. And here you can see we got plenty of room. And now I'm just going to start putting all those push pins back in place. Now, the thing with these is you got to make sure that center piece is still out. You put that base in first. Make sure it's inserted all the way in. And you push in the center and it'll lock it down. So we'll repeat that for all these up here, and then put those two that go behind the belly pan. Once you have all the fasteners back in place and everything's nice and tight, that'll finish up your installation and your look at the Curt base plate on our 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK Unlimited.